Lyra heard about the execution from a guard who didn't know she was listening. A public execution at dawn. One human terrorist who had killed Velcran soldiers. She didn't need to ask which human. She already knew. Her quarters were locked from the outside. Her communicator was disabled. She was being watched by security cameras. But Lyra had spent her whole life on warships. She knew their systems better than anyone realized. She waited until the middle of the night cycle, when most of the crew was asleep. Then she pulled a small tool from inside her mattress. She had hidden it there weeks ago just in case. It took her 20 minutes to short out the camera in her room. Another 10 to override the door lock using maintenance codes she had memorized years ago. The corridor outside was empty. Lyra moved fast, staying in the shadows, avoiding patrol routes she had memorized. She had to get to the detention level. Had to see Teo one more time. Had to tell him she was sorry for running away, sorry for everything. She almost made it. She was 2 corridors away from the detention center when someone stepped out of the darkness in front of her. Sub-Commander Keith smiled. "Going somewhere, young one?" Lyra froze. She recognized him now. He was the one who had been following her. The one who had reported everything to her mother. "The execution is in 6 hours, Keth said pleasantly. "You should be resting. It's going to be quite the spectacle." "Let me pass," Lyra said. Her voice shook, but she stood firm. "I don't think so. Your mother gave specific orders that you were to be confined. Disobeying the Admiral is a serious offense." Keth pulled out a communicator. "I should report this immediately." "Wait," Lyra said. "Please, I just want to see him. Just once. I won't help him escape, I promise." Keth studied her for a moment, then laughed. "You actually care about that creature, don't you?" The Admiral was right to worry. "You've been corrupted by human sentiment. Disgusting." Something inside Lyra snapped. For 6 months she had been confused, torn between loyalty and truth. But standing here, listening to Keth mock the first real friendship she had ever known, everything became clear. "You're right," she said quietly. "I do care about him. He showed me kindness when he could have killed me. He taught me that strength isn't about domination. It's about protecting those weaker than you. He showed me that we're the monsters in this war, not them." Keth's smile faded. "Careful, girl. Those words are treason." "Good," Lyra said. "Then I'm a traitor." She dove at him faster than he expected. Her training kicked in. 6 years of combat instruction, all taught by the best warriors in the fleet. She knocked the communicator from his hand and kicked it down the corridor. Keth was bigger, stronger, but he had underestimated her. The fight was brief and brutal. Keth grabbed her by the throat and slammed her against the wall. Lyra couldn't breathe. Black spots danced in her vision. She thought about giving up. Then she thought about Teo's soft voice saying, "Being brave matters." She brought her knee up hard. Keth gasped and dropped her. Lyra hit him again and again, until he collapsed unconscious on the floor. She stood over him, breathing hard, terrified by what she had just done. She grabbed his security credentials and ran. The detention center had 2 guards at the entrance. Lyra used Keth's credentials to get past them, claiming the Admiral had sent her. They let her through. She had maybe 10 minutes before Keth woke up and sounded the alarm. Teo was sitting in his cell with his eyes closed. He looked peaceful, like he was already gone. When he heard footsteps, he opened his eyes and saw her. His face transformed with surprise and worry. "Lyra, you shouldn't be here. I had to see you," she said in Korean. Her accent was perfect now. "I had to tell you I'm sorry. For running away. For being angry. You were right about everything. You have nothing to apologize for," Teo said gently. "You're a child caught in an impossible situation. None of this is your fault." "I'm going to save you," Lyra said. She was trying to access the force field controls with Keth's credentials, but they weren't working. Wrong security level. "I'm going to get you out and we'll—" "Lyra, stop." Teo's voice was soft but firm. "There's no escape from this. Even if you got me out of this cell, we'd never make it off the station. And you'd be executed alongside me. I don't care." "I do," Teo said. "Listen to me. What happens to me doesn't matter. What matters is you. You're going to survive this. You're going to grow up and become better than your mother. You're going to change things. I'm just one person. I can't change an empire." "Maybe not," Teo agreed. "But you can change yourself. And that's where all change begins." Alarms started blaring. Keth had woken up. Red emergency lights flooded the corridor. They had seconds left. "I have to go." Lyra said, tears running down her face. But I won't forget you. I'll never forget what you taught me. Remember the music box, Teo said. Make something beautiful in this ugly universe. That's how we win in the end. Guards were coming. Lyra took one last look at the human who had changed her life. Then she ran. She was caught 3 corridors away, dragged back to her quarters, and locked in under heavy guard. But she had done what she needed to do. She had said goodbye. Dawn came too fast. The execution platform was set up in the main plaza of the orbital station. Every human survivor from the planet below was brought up to watch. Forced to witness what happened to those who resisted, the Velcron fleet gathered, thousands of soldiers and officers all watching screens that showed the platform. Teo was brought out in restraints. He walked calmly, his head up. No begging, no crying, just quiet dignity. The human survivors in the crowd watched him with tears in their eyes. He was their voice, their courage, and they were about to watch him die. Admiral Velrin stood on the platform, her execution weapon drawn. She looked at the human who had corrupted her daughter and felt nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just the cold necessity of duty. But before she could give the order to begin, every screen in the station suddenly changed. Instead of showing the execution platform, they showed something else, a video, a message. It was Lyra's face on every screen, speaking in both Velcron and Korean, and behind her voice, playing softly, was the music box melody from Teo's daughter. My name is Lyra, daughter of Admiral Velrin, the recording said. For 6 months I have been learning from a human named Teo. He is the one about to be executed. I want everyone to know what I learned. The video showed everything. Lyra's recordings of their meetings, Teo teaching her Korean, the music box playing its simple song, the families in the basement sharing what little they had, and Lyra's own research showing the truth about the Empire's integration policy, 47 species extinct, not integrated. We are told that humans are animals, Lyra's voice continued. But this human could have killed me when we first met. Instead, he healed my leg and gave me his food. We are told that conquest makes us strong, but I watched humans who had nothing share everything. We are told that we bring order to chaos, but I found the truth in our own restricted files. We don't integrate species, we erase them. The transmission spread through the entire Third Fleet. Every ship received it. Thousands of soldiers watched. Many tried to shut it down, but Lyra had used a trick Teo had taught her, redundancy. The message played from 100 different sources at once. The human on the platform is named Teo. Lyra's message concluded. He is soft-voiced and kind. He lost his family to our invasion, but he still showed me mercy. He taught me that being strong means protecting the weak, not crushing them. If we execute him, we prove that everything he said about us is true. That we are the monsters, that we are afraid of a single soft voice speaking truth. The message ended. The music box melody faded away. Every screen returned to showing the execution platform. Admiral Velrin stood frozen, her weapon still drawn. She looked at Teo. He looked back at her with those same calm eyes. Not pleading, not accusing, just waiting. The Admiral looked at the crowd of humans, at her soldiers, at the countless screens showing her to the entire fleet. She thought about her daughter, locked in quarters, waiting to see if her mother was truly the monster she appeared to be. Velrin lowered her weapon. The silence was deafening. My daughter, the Admiral said, her voice broadcast across the fleet, asked me a question once. She asked what happens to those we conquer. I gave her the military answer. The correct answer. The answer I was taught to give. She walked to where Teo stood and unlocked his restraints herself. But today, I will give her a different answer. Today I will tell her that her mother made a mistake. That an empire built on extinction is no empire at all. It is a graveyard, and I am tired of being its caretaker. The fleet erupted in chaos. Some ships transmitted support. Others transmitted outrage. The careful order of the Third Fleet fractured into 1,000 arguments, 1,000 debates. But on the platform, Teo rubbed his wrists and looked at the Admiral who had just saved his life. Thank you, he said softly. Don't thank me yet, Velrin replied. What comes next will be harder than any war. Change is always harder than conquest. Above them, in her locked quarters, Lyra watched the screens and cried. Not tears of sadness this time. Tears of hope the Armada had chosen. Not conquest. Not tradition. but the possibility, however fragile, of something better. A soft voice had changed everything. The Third Fleet arrived like a dark tide blotting out the stars. 200 warships, each one capable of destroying a city in minutes. Admiral Velrin's flagship, the Endless Victory, was the largest vessel ever built by the Velcran Empire. It hung in orbit above New Pyongyang like a knife held over a throat. Lyra stood at the observation window in her quarters and watched her mother's ship dock with the orbital station. She hadn't slept in 3 days. The message she had sent to Teo had been delivered, but she didn't know if he had received it. She didn't know if he was even alive anymore. The waiting was torture. A chime at her door made her jump. "Enter," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The door opened. Admiral Velrin walked in, and Lyra felt her breath catch. She hadn't seen her mother in person for over a year. The Admiral looked exactly the same. Tall, commanding, with the glowing medals of 30 campaigns on her uniform. Her face was calm, unreadable. "Daughter," Velrin said. No warmth, no emotion. "Just acknowledgement, Admiral," Lyra replied, using her mother's rank instead of title. It was how things were done in military families. "Report on your training progress," Velrin commanded, walking to the window and looking down at the planet below. The planet she had conquered 6 months ago. Lyra gave the required report. Her studies, her combat scores, her language acquisitions, all lies mixed with enough truth to sound convincing. Her mother listened without looking at her. "You've done well," Velrin said when Lyra finished. "I have decided you will participate in the ceremony. You will stand beside me when we celebrate our victory over this world." Lyra felt sick. "Yes, Admiral." "The humans here are nearly pacified," Velrin continued, still looking at the planet. "Only a few pockets of resistance remain. They will be eliminated soon. This world will become a monument to the Empire's strength." "Mother," Lyra started, then caught herself. "Admiral, may I ask a question?" "Speak." "The humans we captured, what happens to them after pacification is complete?" Velrin finally turned to look at her daughter. Her eyes were cold and calculating. "Why do you ask?" "Educational interest," Lyra said quickly. "I'm studying integration protocols." "Integration is a generous term," Velrin said. "The strong survive, the weak serve, and those who cannot serve are eliminated. This is how the Empire has always operated. This is how we became the greatest power in the galaxy. By killing everyone who disagrees with us." The words came out before Lyra could stop them. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Velrin's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in her eyes. "Careful, daughter. That sounds like dissent. I'm just trying to understand. There is nothing to understand. We are the strong. They are the weak. The universe is simple once you accept this truth." Velrin walked toward the door, then paused. "You are confined to this station until after the ceremony. You will not make any unauthorized trips to the surface. Is that clear?" Lyra's heart stopped. She knows. Or she suspects. "Yes, Admiral." Velrin left without another word. As soon as the door closed, Lyra collapsed into a chair. Her hands were shaking. She had to warn Teo. If her mother was restricting her movement, it meant something was coming. Something bad. She tried to access her communicator, but it was locked. Tried her personal terminal. Also locked. She was being monitored. Probably had been for weeks. How much did they know? Below on the planet's surface, Teo received Lyra's warning too late. The resistance had already begun their attack. 3 supply depots went up in flames simultaneously. A communication relay was destroyed by a human suicide bomber. It was chaos. Beautiful chaos. And for the first time in 6 months, the humans were fighting back. But Teo knew it wouldn't be enough. Lyra's information had helped them choose better targets, but the Empire's response would be overwhelming. He crouched in the ruins of a warehouse listening to explosions in the distance and wondered if he would ever see the alien girl again. "All units, fall back to checkpoint 7. He whispered into his radio. "Repeat, fall back now." The humans scattered like smoke. They had learned to hit and run, to never stay in one place. But the Velcran response was faster than expected. Patrol ships filled the sky. Search beams cut through the darkness. Someone had known they were coming. Teo was running through an alley when the beam caught him. He dove behind a collapsed wall, but it was too late. He heard the distinctive hum of Velcran armor. 3 soldiers dropped from the sky and surrounded him. "Human, you are under arrest," one of them said in mechanical translated Korean. "Surrender or die." Teo thought about fighting. He had a pistol with 6 bullets. It would do nothing against their armor. He thought about running. They would shoot him in the back. He thought about Lyra and wondered if she was safe. He put his hands up. I surrender. They took him aboard one of the patrol ships. His hands were bound with energy restraints that burned his wrists. The soldiers didn't speak to him. To them he was cargo, nothing more. The ship flew to the orbital station and Teo was dragged through corridors filled with Velcran military personnel. They all stopped to stare at him. Some looked disgusted, some looked curious. None looked sympathetic. They threw him into a cell with a force field instead of bars. The cell was small and white and empty. Teo sat on the floor and waited. He didn't have to wait long. Admiral Velrin arrived within an hour. She stood outside the force field and studied him like he was a specimen in a lab. Teo looked back at her and saw where Lyra got her eyes. The same silver flecks, but in the Admiral they were cold as stars. You are the human who attacked our supply depot, Velrin said. Not a question. A statement. I am one of them, Teo replied softly. You killed 17 of my soldiers. You killed 2 million of my people. Velrin's expression didn't change. War is not about fairness. It's about strength. You are weak. We are strong. This is the natural order. Teo shook his head. If you were truly strong, you wouldn't need to kill everyone who disagrees with you. I don't kill everyone, Velrin said. I kill those who resist. Those who accept their place survive. As slaves, as subjects of a greater empire, you would have been given a place if you had surrendered. Yes, Teo said. A place in a grave eventually. I've seen your integration files. I know how this ends. For the first time, Velrin looked surprised. How did you access classified files? Teo didn't answer. He wouldn't put Lyra in danger, not even to save himself. Velrin stared at him for a long moment. Then her eyes widened slightly, understanding. My daughter, she whispered. She's been meeting with you. Your daughter is braver than you'll ever be, Teo said quietly. She had the courage to ask questions, to learn the truth about what her empire really does. Can you say the same? Silence. Velrin's control cracked for just a second. She took a breath and regained her composure. You manipulated a child, used her innocence against her. This is typical human behavior. I helped her see the truth, Teo said. If you call that manipulation, then yes, I'm guilty. But tell me, Admiral, when did you last look at what your empire does and ask yourself if it's right? Right? Velrin laughed, but it sounded hollow. Morality is a luxury of the strong. The weak don't get to decide what's right. They get to obey or die. Then I choose to die, Teo said simply. Velrin stared at him. This human should be begging for his life, should be offering information, betraying his people, anything to survive. Instead, he sat calmly and accepted death like it was an old friend. It unsettled her in a way she couldn't explain. You will be executed at dawn, she said, publicly, as an example to the other humans. They need to learn that resistance is futile. They already know it's futile, Teo said. They resist anyway. That's what you'll never understand about us. We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because not fighting means we've already lost something more important than life. Velrin turned to leave, then paused. What did you do to my daughter? What did you tell her? Teo smiled softly. I taught her Korean, showed her that humans are people, let her listen to a music box. Small things, true things. Everything else she figured out on her own. She's smarter than you give her credit for. She's a child. She's old enough to recognize evil when she sees it, even when it wears her mother's face. Velrin's hand moved to her weapon, but she stopped herself. She wouldn't give him the satisfaction of losing control. Instead, she walked away, her footsteps echoing in the corridor. Alone in his cell, Teo closed his eyes and thought of Lyra. He hoped she would be okay. He hoped she would survive what was coming. Most of all, he hoped she would remember that being brave mattered, even when bravery cost everything. Dawn was 6 hours away. The man following Lyra was careful, but not careful enough. Sub-Commander Keth had been in military intelligence for 30 years. He knew how to track a target without being seen. He had been watching Admiral Velrin's daughter for 2 weeks now, documenting her unauthorized trips to the surface, her mysterious meetings in the ruins. When he finally saw who she was meeting, he almost laughed out loud. A human. The Admiral's own daughter was fraternizing with the enemy. This was better than he could have hoped for. Keth had always hated Velryn's family. They were too soft, too political. Now he had evidence that would destroy them. But Keth was patient. He would let the situation develop. The bigger the scandal, the bigger his reward would be when he exposed it. So he watched and recorded and waited. Lyra didn't know she was being followed that day, the day everything broke. She met Teo at their usual spot, an old hospital chapel with half its roof missing. He looked tired, more tired than usual. There were dark circles under his eyes. "Are you sick?" Lyra asked in Korean. Her accent was much better now after 6 months. "Just didn't sleep well," Teo said. But he wouldn't meet her eyes. Lyra knew him well enough now to know when he was hiding something. "What is wrong? Tell me." Teo was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his bag and pulled out a notebook. It was filled with writing and drawings. Lyra leaned closer to look. She saw diagrams of Velcran ships, patrol routes, guard schedules, technical specifications, all things she had innocently mentioned over the past months. Her blood went cold. "What is this?" "Intelligence," Teo said softly. "Everything you told me I wrote down. Your people's movements, your technology, your weaknesses. The other survivors and I, we've been planning something." Lyra felt like the ground was disappearing under her feet. "You used me. All this time you were using me." "Yes," Teo said. There was no apology in his voice, no shame. "But not the way you think. You lied to me." Lyra's voice broke. She felt tears burning in her eyes. Everything was a lie. "No." Teo's voice got even softer, which somehow made it stronger. "I never lied to you, Lyra. Every word I taught you was real. Every story I told you was true. The kindness I showed you, that was real too. I do care about you. You remind me of my daughter, and that has never been a lie. But you used me anyway," Lyra whispered. "Yes," Teo said again, "because I also have a duty to my people. Just like you have a duty to yours. The difference is my people are fighting to survive. Your people are fighting to conquer. Both of us can be true things at the same time. I can care about you and still fight against your empire. Do you understand?" Lyra wanted to scream at him. She wanted to call the guards and have him arrested. But she couldn't move. Because underneath the betrayal and hurt, she understood exactly what he meant. She cared about Teo. She also served the fleet. 2 truths at the same time, pulling her in different directions. "What are you planning?" she asked quietly. Teo hesitated. Then he showed her more pages. Plans for attacks on supply depots, locations of weapon caches the humans had secretly built, a desperate, impossible plan to strike back against the occupation. "You will all die," Lyra said. "My people are too strong. This is suicide." "Probably," Teo agreed. "But if we don't try, we die slowly anyway. At least this way we die standing up. And maybe, just maybe, we can warn other human colonies what's coming. If we can damage your communication systems, get a message out, thousands of you will die for a maybe?" Lyra couldn't understand it. "That's what makes us human," Teo said. "Hope, even when hope is foolish. We would rather die trying than live on our knees." Lyra stood up fast. "I have to go. I cannot think here. Lyra, do not follow me." She was crying now openly. "You should have just killed me that first day. It would have been kinder." She ran. Behind her, Teo sat alone in the chapel and put his head in his hands. He had known this moment would come. It didn't make it hurt any less. Sub-Commander Keth watched the alien child run past his hiding spot, tears streaming down her face. Perfect. The emotional breakdown would make the evidence even more damning. He checked his recording device. He had everything. The human's confession, the intelligence notebooks, all of it. Now he just needed to wait for the right moment to strike. Lyra made it back to her quarters on the ship before she collapsed. Her mind was spinning. Teo had used her, but he had also been honest about it. He cared about her, but he was also planning to attack her people. Every truth came with another truth that contradicted it. She tried to calm down and think logically, the way her mother had taught her. Teo was the enemy. She should report him immediately. That was her duty. But if she reported him, he would die. The thought made her sick. Maybe he deserved to die. He had manipulated her, used her trust against her. But he had also shown her the truth about her empire. Without him, she would still believe the lies. Lyra pulled up her personal tablet and accessed the files she had stolen weeks ago. The list of extinct species, 47 civilizations erased, She looked at their names, their histories, what little remained of them. Then she looked at Teo's notebook, which she had grabbed without thinking when she ran. The humans were number 48 on the list. They just didn't know it yet. She thought about the music box that played for no reason except to be beautiful. She thought about the families sharing soup in the dark. She thought about Teo's soft voice saying, "Being brave matters." Lyra made a decision. She started typing, accessing restricted files she definitely wasn't supposed to see. Fleet deployment schedules, weapon specifications, security protocols. If Teo had used her knowledge, then fair was fair. She would give him something in return. But first she needed to know the truth about something else. She searched the military database for files about integration procedures. What she found made her throw up again. There was no integration. There never had been. The process was simple. Extermination of military targets followed by forced labor of survivors, followed by systematic elimination when they were no longer useful. Her people weren't conquering. They were exterminating. And her mother, Admiral Velrin, was one of the main architects of the policy. Lyra sat on her floor for 3 hours, staring at nothing. Everything she believed in was ash. Her mother was a mass murderer. Her people were monsters. And Teo, the enemy human who had used her, was the only person who had ever told her the truth. She accessed her communicator and recorded a message. She marked it for delayed transmission to Teo's location. In broken Korean, she said, "You were right. About everything. I am sorry I ran. I am sorry I was angry. Thank you for showing me the truth even when it hurts. My mother comes in 3 weeks. Someone named Keth is watching us. He knows about our meetings. Be careful. I will try to help. I do not know how yet, but I will try." She paused, then added, "You did not just use me. I know that now. You saved me. Not just my leg. You saved me from becoming like my mother." "Thank you, soft voice human." She sent the message and then sat in the dark, wondering what happened to children who betrayed their families for the right reasons. Probably nothing good. But Teo had taught her that being brave mattered more than being safe. 3 decks above her, Sub-Commander Keth finished compiling his report. In 3 weeks, when the Admiral arrived for the ceremony, he would present his evidence. The scandal would destroy Velrin's career and elevate his own. He smiled to himself. Sometimes patience really was the best weapon. None of them knew it yet, but the countdown had begun. 3 weeks until the Armada arrived. 3 weeks until everything changed. 3 weeks until a soft-voiced human and an alien child would face the consequences of their impossible friendship. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could shake the foundations of empires. Teo saw her again 3 weeks later. He had returned to the hospital ruins to search for surgical tools when he found her sitting on a pile of rubble, waiting. Her leg had healed, and she wore a different uniform now. She waved at him like they were old friends. Every logical part of his brain told him to run. Instead, he sat down on a broken wall 3 meters away from her. They looked at each other in silence. Then Lyra pulled out a small tablet and showed him something. It was a drawing, crude but clear. A stick figure with a soft smile, holding out a hand to a smaller figure. Below it, symbols in her language Teo understood. She was asking why he helped her. He thought about how to answer with no shared language. Finally, he pulled out his wallet. Inside was a photo, creased and faded. His daughter Sua, age 7, smiling with her 2 front teeth missing. He showed it to Lyra and pointed to her, then to the photo, then back to her. "You reminded me of her." Lyra stared at the photo for a long time. She touched it gently with 1 finger. Then she looked at him and made a sound like a question. "Where is she?" Teo pointed to the sky and made a gesture of something falling, exploding. He pointed to the ruins around them. Gone. All gone. Something changed in Lyra's face. She understood death. She looked at the photo again, then at Teo, and her expression held something like shame. Her people did this. She knew that now. That day they sat in silence for an hour before the sound of approaching patrols made them both flee in different directions. But Lyra came back the next week and the week after that. Each time she brought her tablet. Each time Teo taught her a few words of Korean. "Tree," he would say, pointing to a dead trunk. Lyra would repeat it, her accent strange but trying. Sky. Water. Hand. Simple words. Building blocks of understanding. By the second month, they could have basic conversations. Lyra's Korean was broken and mixed with gestures, but she learned fast. Teo learned that she was young for her species, that she had lived her whole life on warships, that her mother was someone important. Admiral Vel Rin, Supreme Commander of the Third Fleet. Lyra spoke her mother's name with pride and fear mixed together. Mother says humans are animals, Lyra told him one day, struggling with the words. But you not animal. You are kind. Your mother is wrong about many things, Teo said softly. He was always soft with his words, even when saying hard truths. Lyra nodded slowly. She was beginning to suspect that too. In the third month, Teo brought her to see something. He made sure they weren't followed, then led her to a hidden basement where other survivors were sheltering. He didn't bring her inside, just let her watch through a crack in the wall. An old woman was teaching 3 children how to read using salvaged books. A man with one arm was sharing soup with a pregnant woman. People taking care of each other in the darkness. This is what humans are, Teo whispered. We survive. We help each other. We don't give up. Lyra watched for a long time. In her ships, everyone had a rank and a function. There was order and chain of command. But here, these broken people with nothing still shared what little they had. It didn't make military sense. It made a different kind of sense, one she didn't have words for yet. Why do they share? She asked. They have so little. Because that's what makes us human, Teo said. We're stronger together than apart. Lyra thought about this for days. In Velcran culture, strength was individual. You climbed by being better than others. But these humans were surviving because they lifted each other up. The concept made her head hurt, but in a good way. Like learning a new type of math that suddenly made the universe bigger. By the 4th month, Lyra started bringing things. Food packets from her rations. Medical supplies she claimed were expired, but weren't. Once, she brought a small device that purified water. She left them in the hospital ruins for Teo to find. She never mentioned them, and he never thanked her out loud, but they both knew. Teo, in turn, taught her things. He showed her the music box that had belonged to Sua. It played a simple melody when you wound it up. Lyra was fascinated. What is purpose? She asked. What does it do? It's beautiful, Teo said. That's its purpose, to make something beautiful in an ugly world. Lyra held the music box like it was made of glass. In her world, everything had a military function. Art was propaganda. Music was for marching. But this small box made sounds just to be lovely, just to make people smile. She listened to it for an hour, and Teo let her. He saw tears in her alien eyes. I have never heard beautiful before, she whispered. Not like this. Not for no reason. There's always a reason, Teo said gently. Joy is a reason. Hope is a reason. In the 5th month, they had a fight. Lyra was excited about something, talking fast in her broken Korean about how her mother's fleet would soon bring order to the planet. How things would be better once the integration was complete. She said it like she believed it. Teo's voice got quiet the way it always did when he was angry. Better than what? We were happy before you came. We had families, homes, dreams. Your order killed all of that. Lyra stopped talking. She had never seen Teo angry before. It scared her because even angry, he didn't yell. His soft voice just got softer, sadder. You think you're helping, he continued. But Lyra, helping is what I did when I fixed your leg. What your people do isn't helping. It's conquering. There's a difference. Lyra wanted to argue, to defend her people, her mother, but the words died in her throat. She thought about the family she saw through the basement wall. Were they better off now than before? No, and obviously no. But if her people were wrong about this, what else were they wrong about? That night, Lyra did something dangerous. She accessed the restricted section of her ship's database, using codes she wasn't supposed to have. She searched for information about the species her empire had integrated before humans. 47 species in total. She looked for evidence of them in the fleet, evidence that they were alive and part of the empire as she had been taught. She found nothing. No aliens serving in the fleet. No integrated planet sending resources. Just classifications marked extinct or assimilated with no details. The empire didn't integrate. It erased, Lyra threw up in her quarters. Then she cried for the first time since she was very small. Everything she knew was built on lies. When she saw Teo next, she apologized. You were right, she said in careful Korean. I am sorry. My people. We are the monsters. Teo shook his head. No, your people's leaders are monsters. You're just a kid who's learning the truth. That takes courage. What do I do now? Lyra asked. She sounded lost. You keep learning, Teo said. You ask questions. And someday, when you have power, you make different choices than your leaders did. Lyra nodded. It seemed impossible. She was one child against an empire, but Teo believed in her. For now, that was enough. In the 6th month, Lyra told him the news. Mother is coming. Big ceremony in 3 weeks. The whole 3rd Fleet. She looks scared. They will know I come here. Someone is watching. I think they know about you. Teo felt his stomach drop, but he kept his voice calm. Then we should stop meeting. No, Lyra said firmly. No more running. No more hiding. You taught me that being brave matters. Being brave and being stupid are different things, Teo said. But he smiled a little. Maybe. Lyra agreed. But you stayed stupid for me 6 months ago. Now is my turn. They sat together in the ruins, watching the sunset through broken walls. Both of them knew that everything was about to change. The Admiral was coming. The Armada was coming. And their secret friendship, built on soft words and shared kindness, was about to be tested by the hardest thing of all. War. The hospital had been beautiful once. Teo remembered its white walls and clean floors. The smell of antiseptic mixed with the flowers that patients' families brought. Now it was just broken concrete and twisted metal. 6 months had passed since the sky had filled with alien ships, since the world had ended in fire and screaming. He moved carefully through the rubble, his footsteps silent on the dust-covered floor. His backpack was nearly empty. He needed bandages, antibiotics, anything that might help the 17 people hiding in the bunker 3 kilometers away. 17 survivors out of a city of 2 million. The number made his chest hurt every time he thought about it. The pharmacy was on the 3rd floor, or what remained of it. Half the building had collapsed, leaving rooms exposed to the sky like a broken dollhouse. Teo climbed the emergency stairs, testing each step before putting his weight on it. He had learned to be patient. Crushing got you killed. He was filling his bag with antibiotic packets when he heard the sound. A whimper, soft and frightened, coming from somewhere nearby. Teo froze. His hand moved to the knife on his belt. In 6 months, he had learned that sounds meant danger. The aliens patrolled in pairs, their weapons could cut through concrete, and they never took prisoners. But this sound was different. It was pain, not threat. Teo had been a pediatric nurse before the invasion. He had spent 12 years learning the difference between kinds of crying. This was a child's cry. He found her in what used to be a patient room. She was small, maybe the size of a human 12-year-old, though Teo had no idea how alien aging worked. Her skin was pale blue-gray, and patterns of light moved under it like circuits. She wore a uniform that looked too big for her, and one of her legs was bent at a wrong angle. Her large eyes, black with flecks of silver, went wide when she saw him. Every survival instinct, Teo had screamed at him to run. This was the enemy. This was the species that had killed his wife Hewan and his daughter Sua. This creature's people had turned his world into ash and graves. His hand tightened on the knife. The alien child tried to scramble backward and cried out in pain. Her injured leg wouldn't support her. She made sounds in a language he didn't understand, but he knew fear when he heard it. She thought he was going to kill her. Teo closed his eyes and took a slow breath. When he opened them, he wasn't looking at an alien soldier. He was looking at a hurt child who was scared and alone. His hands moved before his brain could stop them. He put the knife on the ground and slid it away. Then he held up his empty hands. "It's okay," he said softly. His voice was barely above a whisper. Years of working with frightened children had taught him that quiet voices helped more than loud ones. "I'm not going to hurt you." She didn't understand his words, but something in his tone made her stop trying to crawl away. She stared at him with those strange silver-flecked eyes. Teo pointed to her leg, then to his medical bag, then to himself. He moved very slowly, giving her time to understand. "May I help?" The alien child watched him for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then slowly she nodded. Teo approached like he was approaching a wounded bird. He knelt beside her and gently touched her leg. She flinched but didn't pull away. The break was clean, which was good. He had splints in his bag, and the antibiotics he had just found. He worked quietly, explaining each step in his soft voice even though she couldn't understand. "This might hurt a little. I'm going to set the bone now." Deep breath. Her biology was different from human biology, but broken bones were broken bones. He set the fracture as gently as he could. She made a sound like wind chimes breaking, but she didn't scream. Brave kid, he thought. He wrapped the splint tight and gave her 2 antibiotic pills and his water bottle. She looked at them like she had never seen medicine before. "Swallow them," he said, miming the action. She copied him. While he worked, he noticed the device on her wrist. It looked like some kind of communicator. Broken, probably from whatever accident had hurt her leg. Good. That meant no one was tracking her yet, but they would come looking eventually. When he finished, he sat back and looked at her. She looked back at him. For a moment, they were just 2 beings in a ruined building, neither one sure what happened next. The alien child reached into a pocket and pulled out a small, flat device. She touched it and symbols appeared in the air, glowing faintly. She pointed at him, then tapped the device. More symbols. She was trying to record him to understand. Teo almost laughed. Here they were, species at war, and this child was curious about him. He pointed to himself. "Teo," he said clearly. Then he pointed to her and raised his eyebrows in question. She made a sound that was musical and strange. He would never be able to pronounce it. She seemed to realize this and looked frustrated. Then she tapped her device again and played back something. It was his voice saying, "It's okay," over and over. She pointed to him and then to her device. She was naming him based on his voice, on how softly he spoke. Teo felt something twist in his chest. He nodded. "Okay, you can call me that." Outside, he heard the hum of alien engines. Her people were coming. Teo quickly stuffed the rest of the medical supplies into his bag. He stood and backed toward the door. The alien child looked panicked, making sounds he couldn't understand. She held out one hand toward him. Teo pulled out his last clean bandage and placed it beside her along with the rest of the antibiotic packet. Then he did something stupid. He pulled out a protein bar from his pocket, one of his last 3, and left it for her too. She needed food to heal. "Stay safe, little one," he whispered. Then he turned and ran. He made it out of the building just as 2 alien scouts landed on hover platforms nearby. He pressed himself against a wall and watched as they found the child and carried her away. She looked back at the hospital as they left, her dark eyes scanning the ruins, looking for him. That night in the bunker, Teo logged everything he had learned about alien biology in his medical journal. The others thought he was crazy for helping her. Maybe he was, but he had looked into that child's eyes and seen fear and pain and curiosity. He had seen a person. He had also done something else while treating her. He had memorized the symbols on her uniform. Unit numbers maybe, position markers. Every piece of information could help. But mostly he thought about how she had named him with his own soft voice. How she had reached for him when he left. And he wondered if she was thinking about him too. In orbit above the dead planet, Lyra sat in her recovery pod and stared at her recordings. She played the soft-voiced human's words over and over, trying to understand. Her teacher would punish her for losing her hover scout. Her mother would be disappointed. But all Lyra could think about was how the human could have killed her, and chose kindness instead. Everything she had been taught said humans were monsters, but monsters didn't set broken bones with gentle hands. Monsters didn't share their food. Lyra made a note in her personal log, one that would never be seen by her superiors. Met soft-voice human today. Nothing makes sense anymore.